here is our community. The things that George covered and what we've done to partnership with our community, because we do feel that we are a destination. People come to visit the post on the coast. I think a lot of you have heard that term. And we're very proud of our accomplishments. We work very closely as a team. You see members here from our comrades, our veterans that served, and our auxiliary member. So truly, it is a partnership. And we just wanted to let you know what we've accomplished and what we do for our community. Any Isle of Palms event that's held on the street, we participate. We've opened our doors and we've been in this room to help with the swim jam with the Navy SEALs. Some of you may have been involved in that. And now we're helping like Vets for Vets, which was new this year. So there's so many things that we do. Not to mention the partnership we have in the Charleston area with the Ralph H. Johnson VA Medical Center. We donate a lot of time and money to our veterans that have needs through the VA system. So I just wanted to share that.
You all know being on the beach has great advantages for attracting visitors. It also causes a lot of problems in keeping maintenance. I know we've asked for a lot of money, but your money will be spent in conjunction with our own money. While we've asked for this money be given in a lump sum, that was due because last year the money we received was in a lump sum, but we're willing to take it in any kind of increment that you so desire. We have committed a lot of our own money, and your donation was helpful to put us over the top to complete a couple projects last year. We've already had a hefty investment in our facility, and we appreciate your partnering with us. We need and request your funding to continue to make IOP and our facility one of the best destinations for servicemen and women, tourists, and visitors. They also spend their time, their money, and their vacations here.
We really don't have anything else we'd like to add other than this is a partnership and what we've done. And I think one thing that indicates it is the most recent project was the sidewalk replacement and the walkway that is on our property, but it's shared by anybody that visits this island. And all the bricks, if you notice, matches the work that was done on the main street. So that all works together. So with that being said, we'd like to see if there are any comments or questions for George or me.
Are you intending to use the money to reimburse your expenses for the walkway in the circle area, or is it for future projects?
It will. We don't intend to reimburse. That has already been paid for. I mean, with part of your money you gave us last year, and we will be using it hopefully for future expenses.
Yeah, and we have
in reference to future expenses, we have a lot of maintenance to do.
Yes, I was just going to make that point. You know how it is living on the beach. Every time you turn around, there's something to repair, things that need to be done. And we do feel that we're a destination, and there are constantly improvements that need to be done to the post, and it costs a lot of money. And this would be a great help to help us accomplish those goals.
I can answer that question in just another way. You've spent some, I think, $78,000-$80,000, or I think the figure for the walkway alone was $68,000 that y'all have committed to and or advanced.
Yes, and to give you
if you're reimbursed, it'll allow you to do other things, including fixing up the mural and giving people greater, especially handicapped and veterans, greater access to the beach. Is that?
That's exactly right. And what I can tell you is the money that was spent totals well over 80,000. And as we said, just to recap, we've got the courtyard, we've got the fencing, we had back deck stabilization and helped to revitalize that. We have the mural. We also have replaced the front steps and landing. And so we have committed up front well over $80,000. So hope that answers that.
Barb?
just concerned. So this is just sort of a carte blanche that you're not asking for specific, like the Surfcam is asking for their $1,000. You're just asking for 30,000 that you will use at your discretion in the future.
It will be used specifically on the facility. Okay. I can list a lot of things that we need repairs on if you want me to do so.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Our elevator is the original elevator. It's a huge expense. We've been told we can't hardly get replacement parts for it. Okay, people are getting stuck in it, disabled vets. Our floors are wood. They need to be resanded, refinished. Our roof is worn out. We have to paint almost every 2 to 3 years, not every 10 years like most people. I mean, we have numerous needs. Now, we'll address them. We do have our own funding. Your guys help us a lot with specific needs and that kind of thing. I believe the things I've mentioned are just part of the activities that we would be involved in.
And so anyone who comes on the Isle of Palms can come visit the VFW.
In certain times, we are a private charitable organization. During Street Fest, yes, it's open. During there's several activities where it's open to the public. Okay, and I'm not that familiar with all those.
Well, I'll share a few things that we do. We open it up, and we were just talking about that earlier. We let organizations use our post. We let visitors from this island use in our property to have access to the beach. We'd spent a lot of money doing that. So, with the shared expense of that, that would be one area that, yes, it would help us to replenish the funds that we spent up front on that. But we have a lot of nonprofit organizations come use the facility. As I mentioned earlier, the Navy SEALs. We have people from nurses that help with the homeless. And a lot of times we open up, like starting in September, October, November, we'll be opening up the community fish fries. All of those, the Vets for Vets, all of that is open to the public.
I guess my concern is that as a group, we're looking to give grants to people who, it's not just tourism, but quote unquote heads in beds, what happens when another group, Exchange Club, for example, that's another private, not club, organization, does giving money to you open up to every private organization on the island that does some sort of charitable work?
I can't answer that. That's your decision. What we're saying is how many people come to the VFW as a destination and how people come on this island that we serve and invite into our post and have access to our property. And I just wanted to make that point that, yes, it's for future maintenance to what we've already done. It's to help replenish what we've already spent. And we did that up front without asking for anything.
And to supplement that, we put a lot of heads on beds. In our documentation there, you can see all the people who are from out of state. And that's just a small portion of the people who come. We don't get receipts from people where they're staying. We just know that they do come over here and that they do stay, and that it becomes a destination for them. Like you mentioned earlier, Vets for Vets. They are a group of people who are driving Corvettes, and they're trying to drum up additional funding for housing needs. Okay. They only had like 55 or 60 Corvettes last year. They anticipate 300 coming this year, and they have indicated they will stay in this area. I don't know how many of that will be, but I can't promise you that they will all stay, but they will fill up a lot of beds in here in November.
And I think if you look at those sign-in rosters that we provided you, and you look in the right-hand column of where these people come from, and you're not going to come from New York or New Jersey or Texas or Alabama and not stay the night. And most of them stay out here. They shop in our stores out here, and they eat in our restaurants out here. So yes, we are a destination, and we provide heads on beds, on pillows, hopefully pillows.
Also, our members are big into advocating for Alabama. Somebody comes in and says, where do you go eat? We don't tell them to go to Mount Pleasant. We don't tell them to go downtown Charleston. We put them on some island restaurant.
course.
And we've got plenty of needs here, so there, we are an advocate for the Alabama.
Maybe I could provide a little clarification here. So, the part of the budget where we look at grants for, actually comes out of the city side portion of the
Right.
65%.
Right, yep.
Which is not necessarily directed specifically for heads and beds, it's for this overall support of tourism. So we don't necessarily meet that hurdle in my opinion, regarding that. I did have one question. Just the requirement for joining, is the sole requirement is only that either you being a veteran or somebody in your family being a veteran, or is there any other additional requirements for someone to become a member?
As for becoming a member, as what we call a comrade, a regular member, you have to have served in a hostile environment in a war. And there is a list provided by the VFW of those conflicts. And if you have documentation on your DD 214 that you served and have a campaign medal ribbon, you're qualified to be a member. If not, you're not qualified. As an auxiliary member, there's 6 ways that you can join through the auxiliary. You can have a grandmother, grandfather, mother, father, sister, brother have served in a conflict, and they have to have the same documentation to have proof of that. I wanted to add the amount of people we attract. We are the largest VFW in the state of South Carolina. We may be the smallest. We have over 1,200 comrades. And then we add the auxiliary, we're well over 2,000. And 80 families live on the island. So that gives you an idea of who comes and goes not only to our post, but goes across the street to grab a pizza, goes down the street to buy a t-shirt. And those are people that are coming and going 365.
Understood. And thank you for that clarification.
I think also a spouse of a veteran can join in.
A spouse.
And a spouse.
And those are the only limitations. As long as you can check those boxes and pay some fees,
Correct.
Okay.
Have a monthly and or a lifetime membership.
And there's one other thing that probably helped clarify. One thing is that, and we welcome guests. If you're from another VFW and you're signed in on that sheet, you can be a guest to come with one person. Like if I want to bring 4 people out because I have family visiting, now we got 4 people who are visiting from Indiana and they want to shop and they want to come see the post.
I appreciate that. So just on a technical issue, and perhaps maybe Desiree or to give guidance on this, just want to be sure about this in terms of the application. You have requested money for certain projects, and then it seems like we pivoted a little bit into maintenance. What I need to understand is whether or not we can accept a application without specifics as to what is going to be done. So I personally support you. I want to make sure that your application is clear with the ability to be approved. The second question that I have for the city is regarding any type of construction in terms of a grant. Is the city exposed to any liability in that area?
No, I don't believe the city is. I would say, though, that for this spirit of transparency and in light of some of the concerns that this committee has highlighted in the past about wanting to have a mechanism to confirm after a grant has been granted, for lack of a better word, to have a mechanism to confirm that those funds were used in fact for what the project that was requested for. I would encourage the VFW to provide a list of specific projects that they would allocate some of this money to. And then in a year or in whatever period we deem necessary, maybe in a year or 2, we can just verify that those funds were used for those specific purposes. I think that would strengthen the application and would address some of the concerns about, what the $30,000 are going to be used for, because the state law does define tourism related expenditures as, maintenance type activities and civic and cultural organizations. So I think that this would fall under that. But again, just to confirm, trust but verify. That
Absolutely. And the one thing we did mention, and it's a big project and we have to deal with it for the handicap accessible coming in, is our elevator. And that alone would be in excess of $30,000. So we would still have to add to that. And that's just one item, plus the maintenance. Yes, maintenance is a part of our budget. I mean, it's there every day.
Chaz, I was gonna follow up on what you said. Did it, understood that, I know you have them, but, the question was asked about trust, or comment was, made about trust and verify. I think you have a number of receipts that, you have readily available here to show, that, you've already spent more than,
I
Yeah.
thought they weren't asking, the 30,000 isn't going to be that though.
they spent their own money.
Less
Yeah.
than, yeah.
That's what, the way that you're supposed to do it according to Turk is it's like Desiree said, it's supposed to be on either a shared basis or it's a reimbursement. This is the way the grants are recommended by Turk.
Yes, sir. Just based on that, for the courtyard that you all had a chance to visit, is a paid invoice for $57,154. Here's a paid invoice for the reinforcement of the deck for safety and the fence for protecting the dunes that everybody wants to enjoy, to keep people from walking through it. $19,479. And here, and the fence was $2,880. So there's your $80,000 right there.
I guess it's just semantics, but so
All
this,
people.
this grant is for reimbursement? No, it's for future things. Let's make it for reimbursement. I can rationalize that it's a walkway to the beach and it's valid and everything, but not for something that we don't know what it is in the future. Obviously, you need to be reimbursed. I mean, you have the money in your pocket, but at least you've put in 57,000 or make the grant for the elevator. I know exactly. what the
That,
elevator's
I
costing.
didn't want to interrupt you, but yes, this would be the reimbursement part. The elevator is a very real problem. We've already had veterans getting stuck in it. And it's so old. It was there when the post was built post Hugo. And it's time to do work on it. So
If you want me to amend our application and ask $45,000 or $50,000.
yeah.
I'll be glad to do
That would pretty much cover it.
I think what we're asking is a specific project that the $30,000 is going to be allocated to. I
And
think,
that could be reimbursement, or it could be elevator, whatever, but
That's
not
right.
just this,
Well-
not just this carte blanche and, we need new garbage cans, whatever.
I think that the project of an elevator, certainly, there's a very reasonable argument there that it would enhance the facility and provide services to our men and women that are members of the VFW. So I would encourage you to
Right.
maybe identify that as the project that you're going to tackle next, that you're going to be using some of these funds to offset your cost.
Well, thank you, Desiree. And that's exactly what we could do. Or the way my point was just a few minutes ago, we've done both. If maintenance falls and reimbursement falls in that category, well, we certainly did that. And if the elevator falls in that category, we certainly need that. So we have two.
I think in terms of reimbursables, I think we might require a little research to go back and ascertain money spent in prior fiscal year to fiscal year, understand if it all checks the box. What we want to be able to do and ensure is that when the accounting of all this is sent to Turk, that we don't get a kickback.
Right.
I think we're totally aligned in terms of what you're trying to do here. We respect everything that you do. We just want to make real sure that we don't have any mistakes. That's all.
Thank
Good
you,
deal.
thank you.
Good deal.
Don't forget the fish fry start up in September.
But so I'd like to have you folks come back to us with specific projects that are intended to be used for this $30,000 request.
Okay, we can certainly highlight that.
That way, we understand where it's being used. It's not just being thrown into a general fund and we can see actual, the results of the grant.
Thank you.
And then Desiree, we have already spent $10,000 out of the $50,000 allocated during grant money to the
Chamber.
for social media and the kickoff there. So this represents basically 75% of the remaining budget. Do we have any indication that the city is willing to increase our grant percentage?
That could be something that this committee can request of city council. We're closing out the fiscal year 22 and the revenues and state ATAX exceeded budget. So we have more revenues that we anticipated. So that could be something that could be additional funds could be allocated for additional programs and events.
Great, thank you.
Certainly.
So Buddy and George, I expect we'll have a meeting again in August. Are you willing to come back at that time?
Certainly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Everybody up at once.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of an application for funding from the Carolina Surf Club in the amount of $1,000 for the Surfcam webpage.
My name is Jim Radley. Live at 3801 Hartnett Boulevard on Isle Palms and representing the Carolina Coast Surf Club for this application. If you've taken a look at our web page, you'll see that not only is there the live streaming image, but we've also provided information for people about visiting Isle of Palms. We have a section there on the traffic, how to determine the traffic. Parking, we added a section last year as a result of this meeting about lodgings. There's a lot of information on the City of Isle of Palms website. It is not obvious how you navigate to some of that information. So we put that explicitly in the surf report. And it gets updated every day with, surf conditions and that type of thing. But primarily, we want this to be information that anybody who's coming to the Isle of Palms can see. I mean, if you take a look at the Surfcam itself, you can see how crowded it is next to the pier, for example. We rely on the Sea Cabins Management Office. That's where the Surfcam is. And David Crosby and his team, basically provide the electricity and, the physical space for it. We've also know that from Ken Leclerc, who's their security guy, that DNR will use the Surfcam to take a look and see who's fishing on the end of the pier. And occasionally we'll go out there and see if they have a fishing license. So it's had a multitude of purposes. When we get tropical storms, I mean, one of the things that everybody looks at is just how big are the waves, not from a surfing standpoint, but just how big are the waves, you can tell relative to the pier. So that has been our purpose, is to provide as much information as possible for people coming to the Isle of Palms. We are also on the Beach Reach app. The Berkeley, Charleston, Dorchester County government's Beach Reach app. So if you go into that app and click on Isle of Palms, it'll list webcams, and we're one of the webcams. So that's another way for people out of town. Hopefully most people know about the Beach Reach app wherever you're located outside of the Charleston area in South Carolina. And that's a way of getting to the website without having to know what the URL of the Surfcam webpage is. So, and our expenses with the broadband Comcast link, the fixed IP address, our web hosting company that we use, our webmaster who maintains our website, runs about $350 a month. So our sponsors, including the City of Isle Palms, are the way that we can provide that webpage and that service and that information. So are there any questions that anybody has?
Sure. So your request is for basically a renewal of sponsorship?
Yes,
Is
exactly.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. In terms of the other sponsorships that are located there, is the pricing of those sponsorships the same as what you're asking?
It depends upon the location on the webpage, you know. Also, we have two that are not-for-profit organizations. I mean, water keepers, and there's one related to the oceans that we do not charge them as a public service. So, because, you know, City of Isle Palms logo is up there at the top or right near the top, you know, it's more than, it's not a significant difference, but it's a little bit more.
I was very impressed actually with your application.
Yeah.
You actually
Ditto.
took the time to actually get some really great information and your websites. I'm a little curious in terms of the website, the traffic information that you gave.
Yeah.
In terms of the location, the IP addresses, and where your traffic is coming from. You know, we do have day trippers who come through, and of course you've cited that anybody who does basically work here is considered a tourist. Tourist has some different definitions and proximities. It's one of the reasons why they ask about the 50-mile rule, et cetera. But I'm just curious for myself, for the people who actually use the cam, you know, by and large, really, is it people that are living within Charleston County, et cetera, that are basically checking it out before they kind of come in, you know, and it's daily surf information. So there's really no way to kind of plan a trip, so to speak.
Well, I mean, we've just changed our web hosting platform to get better statistics and for several other reasons too. But so we've been using Google Analytics for the data. And while I don't have, for example, one of the questions a couple of years ago was, well, how many people that go onto the webpage, click on the City of Isle Palms, you know, logo? That's not information that we have through Google Analytics, but the City of Isle Palms website should be able to get that information. In other words, when their logo website is clicked on, what's the source of that? But we do have the sources of information and where it comes from. It's interesting, as you might imagine, most of it's from the United States, but I've got these are new users. So 30,827 new users, United States, in the past year. 390 from Great Britain, 106 from Australia. Some of these abbreviations I don't know, but I mean it's interesting that some of these, you know, are clicking out from all over the world.
Yeah, and
It's always interesting.
Right, and I appreciate you're not a webmaster or a marketing person, so I didn't mean to throw a question.
No, I'm the camera guy. I'm not the webmaster.
So I'm curious if there's one thing that you might consider, and that is there a way to add simply a 3-day weather forecast or surf forecast?
Well, we do have one of the links at the bottom of the page is for we've got several buttons there to click on, and one of them is weather forecasting site. So and I haven't looked to see if we have also a link to Magic Seaweed, which is the surf forecast website, but we can certainly add that.
Sure.
So we could add a link to you know, Weather Channel, for example, or the National Weather Service. We do have a local weather link at the bottom of our webpage.
How many years have we been supporting you? It seems like a long time.
We started in 2015.
Okay, That was even longer than that. But
Yeah, I remember on the council and supporting it, yeah. Yeah, so certainly I'll take a check, and take a look at it and see about, adding.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the assumption, broad stroke, that the United States visitors are within driving distance, to the beach. That people are looking at the beach, seeing if it's full to surf, coming out surfing and coming in and out, right? By and large.
Sense is the majority is probably, that's the case, right?
I can take credit for some of the British ones.
Okay, good for you.
My children look at it just to check out what the weather's like on IOP.
All right, thank you so much.
Jim, one of Gloria may know this, but it's worth mentioning. One of the things that you've done that persuaded me is the link to the water keepers, so that it's a true public service that you provide for health and safety. People can know what the condition of our water is, and it gets monitored on a regular basis, as compared to, for example, what we know about Shem Creek and the condition of the water and whether it's safe to go. So that really persuaded me that you have a very worthwhile, among other things, that persuaded me that it's a very worthwhile thing for the Isle of Palms and for our valued tourists and visitors.
Let me add one more comment on the surf forecast. And there are 4 of us that rotate the surf report on a weekly basis. I mean, one of the things that we always do, and I'll speak specifically for myself, is take a look at not only what are the current wave conditions, but are there some better conditions coming up, for example, like, this past Sunday until the storm went through around 10 o'clock in the morning. It's very nice, and there were some good waves. So, I mean, I always take a look in advance, and we'll put, if you scroll down, there's the current conditions, and then there's a section, what we call other information. And I've put up in other information, and the other guys do too, is if it looks like several days in advance, or maybe the weekend, they're going to be better conditions than will indicate that. So.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I was looking through your grant application and it's very impressive, but there's something I don't understand. Paragraph 8 in the grant application, it says if you agree that if there's a profit, that you would return the profit to the city of Isle of Palms. And unless I'm misreading, I see that you made a considerable profit of $6,741. Is your request for an amount, that extra $1,000, because the webcams are going to cost more than your profit? I'm new with this, so you'll have to explain it to me.
Well, some of the, the money over and above the roughly $350 a month for the webcam goes for social activities. I mean, there's an annual oyster roast, for example, an annual meeting in the Exchange Club. So those types of functions, the dues that people pay, $100 a month for family, $50 a year for family, $50 a year for an individual. Those go for the social functions. Our sponsors go for the pay for all of the expenses related to the Surfcam webpage and our website, which is considerably more than $1,000. It's roughly $350 a month, and you add up all the totals there, and the sponsorship covers most of that expense. But I mean, so what is shown as a profit is actually that the dues that's over and above our other expenses that our sponsors do.
All right,
Hopefully that answers the question.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jim? Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
I would make a motion that we approve the application.
I second it.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, Rebecca. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay, now let's get back to the regular agenda. And the next item would be financial statements, led by Debbie Suggs.
So first of all, we're going to talk about the balance sheet as of June 30, 2022. This is a preliminary and unaudited June result. We still have the fourth quarter state ATAX payment to come. Okay. Of course, we expect that to be a pretty good chunk of money. So that will just enhance what we've got here. I don't think there's much left on the expenditure side that's not recognized already. So balance sheet, 200 or 2 million plus in the bank, with another net 650 to come likely from the fourth quarter state ATAX payment. That would be the total of the check less the amount that goes to the CBD.
That's net of the 30%.
Right. And that's just the same amount as last year. It will probably be better than that if our trend for the year holds true. The next page is just the revenue page. You can see we've got 3 quarters, missing quarter number 4. Moving on to expenditures.
Is there anything that's really changed since we met 3 weeks ago?
No,
And I think we, other than for benefit of Gloria, I guess.
there is one thing that is on the agenda further down. We want to go ahead and talk about that now.
Sure.
There are a few over budget items that we would like the committee to vote up or down.
It's the Durango.
Are they the 2 items on item D,
Exactly.
business?
Mhm.
I make a motion, we approve the overage on those budget expenditures. One for the police, Dodge Durangos, I guess there's 2 of them. For a total of $3,430 higher than budgeted. And the second item is the fire self-breathing apparatus at $72 higher than budget. So
Second,
any discussion?
I had a question about that. Just one, it's a friendly question. Is the city recommending that we do this? You feel like you've done your due diligence and we ought to approve this? I wouldn't think we'd want to second guess you, but you think we ought to go ahead and approve this? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
We do recommend approval.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Can I ask her one more question?
sure.
How much do we expect to get for the fourth quarter from the state?
Well, I'm going by the June 21 quarter for my
We're gonna do a whole lot
estimates
better
here,
than
but
that.
I suspect we will do better. That's
Yep.
been the trend all year long.
Well, what was last year?
The total payment from the state last year was a little over $1 million for the June quarter.
A little over 1 million.
That's correct.
And okay, but the trending for this year is a lot better.
It is.
than last. That's great
Significantly.
news. Thanks.
See, I'm not that convinced that it's gonna be over last year. I thought last year was unbelievably high, but whatever, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. Okay. I did want to ask something though, on the last page, just so I understand on the unexpended projects. Do those things get, for instance, the actual column on the Marina dock, marina maintenance, is that just a journal entry that you do or something at the end of the year and put some expense there?
So, the Marina Public Dock for $150,000, that was included in the budget, but there's been no expenditure. That project has actually been rebudgeted into FY.
So it didn't happen. Okay, so it's not like you're just gonna catch it up with the journal entry and put it in there or something.
No, I mean, there might be some late journal entries for late invoices and such, but this is, doesn't, not gonna be that.
Okay. Okay, any questions for Debbie? Okay, thanks, Debbie.
I made it really easy.
Yep. Okay, next item is old business discussion and consideration of proposed fiscal 23 budget from the Charleston Visitors Bureau for the city's 30% state ATAX funds for tourism promotion and advertisement.
So just for some context, I know that this was discussed and you all heard a presentation from the CVB at your last meeting. Obviously, we have new members, so I think it would be a good use of time to hear a little bit from the CVB. As I had advised at your last meeting, TURC does not require the ATAX committee to make a determination on whether or not you're recommending the budget or not. However, City Council felt like it was important to receive a advice in the form of a motion to accept or reject the budget, regardless of TURC regulations. So that's why it's coming back to you all so that you can make a motion to recommend to council to approve the proposed FY23 budget received from the CVB, or a motion to essentially reject it. So that's why I just wanted, for the record, explain why this is again on your agenda as it was last month.
So are we to invite CVB up to that presentation? Is that what you're saying?
I believe they have some new information or additional information they wanted to present. So Lori Smith, sorry, is here with us, as well as Chris. You all saw him, I saw them last week. So if it's the will of the group to hear from them now, we can certainly.
Sure, if they have more information. Okay, Lori, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Or, as you said, I'm going to excuse myself, just one brief moment.
Absolutely. Oh, here we go. Would you like me to wait?
Why don't you get started? There's something I think needs to hear.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm sad to be brought up under old business. I want to be old business. But thank you for having us out again. It's much cooler in this room than it was a month ago. Thank you for that as well. But Chris and I are joining you all again, and grateful to be here. Again, my name is Laurie Smith. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Explore Charleston. Chris Campbell is with me, who is our Director of Strategic Communication. So thank you for allowing us back. I promise I will not take a lot of your time, but I did feel that it was important for us to follow up. There were a couple of questions asked last time that I sat down to draft an email response a couple of times, and I thought this is just not, it's too much for an email. So I'm grateful to have a little bit of your time today to talk through some of the questions that you had last time, and also to summarize for the two new members some of the information that's in your packet as it relates to the budget specifically. So that being said, the questions that were asked last time that we're going to talk through today is related to our revenue sources and our other municipal relationships. We also want to clarify some of the information on the websites. There's several websites out there, and we are hoping to bring a little more understanding about those different sites and their purposes. And also, and we don't have to go into this, but Chrissy had asked specifically about leads. So if that's something that you all are interested in me addressing, I'm happy to do that. But I can follow up with her individually if that's not something for the larger group. So just quickly, Explore Charleston, we are doing business as Explore Charleston. We're the Charleston Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. We serve 10 local municipal governments in the area. We have a 27-member board, and each of our governments has a representative to that board. Your Councilman Rusty Streetman represents Isle of Palms on our Board of Governors. We have 53 employees, and our budget for the current fiscal year is $24 million. Our mission is to unify and lead the local travel industry and marketing this area. That's how we were formed with the IRS. And so that is the mission of our organization. So addressing the revenue sources, just in a 30,000-foot view, we have three large pots of money. We have accommodations tax at about 32% of our overall revenues. We have business and membership revenues that come to us from over 800 members and advertisers. Those are, I guess you might say, private dollars, but it's really membership dollars that are coming to us and advertising dollars. And then those dollars allow us, we're allowed to use that match with the state of South Carolina for a grant called the Destination Specific Grant that is used for marketing of the Charleston area.
Lori, I'm sorry, would you kindly say that one more time, how the grant is derived? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the grant is derived from a match of, the state calls it private dollars. We've been advised not to use that term, but it's basically non-public dollars. So we cannot use your accommodations tax dollars to go after this match from the state. So we use membership dollars and advertising dollars to go out and match that grant with the state of South Carolina.
Great. And then Lori, the accommodations tax, is this specifically to the tax that on this committee, or is there any other taxes involved that bring that tax base up?
That's a great question. If you don't mind me scooting to the next slide, it breaks it down a little further. So you still see the two large chunks of business membership and the grant. What I've done here is, what Chris and I've done here is broken out accommodations tax. And so most of the accommodations tax that we receive comes to us in the form of the 30%. Like we received from Isle of Palms. We do have some other arrangement with other governments. Charleston County, for instance, we receive a portion of Charleston County's county accommodations tax. So it's still accommodations tax, but it's not state accommodations tax.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Great. So Isle of Palms is not contributing any other additional accommodations revenue, any of the sales tax, any of that. This is purely what we're contributing to the area. Thank you.
So this just gives you a snapshot of how the governments fit into this. And you can see Charleston County is a large portion of that. Again, that's the county accommodations tax, followed closely by the city of Charleston, which is all state accommodations tax. Isle of Palms and Kiowa are neck and neck, followed by North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and then some of our smaller beach communities. That was something that was asked last month, and I just wanted to follow up with some clarification. Again, our budget is $24 million, so you can kind of work that math from there, and I'm happy to share this with you all, in writing as well. Okay, so back to your question about accommodations tax. So there are various hospitality tourism taxes that are coming to and through the city of Isle of Palms. What we're here to talk about today is what I've put in green, the 2% state accommodations tax. Now, the state code of laws, section 6-4-3 is what we're addressing, specific to the 30% that's required to be used for promotion of the municipal government. Now, as you all know, and some of the newer members may have been brought up to speed on this, but just in case, the Oversight Committee for Tourism Expenditures in the state is known as TURC, which is the acronym for the Tourism Expenditure Review Committee. Now, TURC has reinterpreted the requirements for our reporting to you all to TURC. And that happened within the last year. So as of August last year, we received direction that there would be new requirements for reporting. And that's what's led to some of these conversations, which I perceive to have been productive conversations. I am in close contact with Demita Jeter, who is the staff person for Turk. And Turk is working diligently to come up with a standard reporting form so that you all aren't, we're not having to make it up as we go. Their committee meets next month and they have at the top of their list to come up with a standard report that would be required for Isle of Palms to submit that has information that specific to the 30%. Because we've been sort of in this no man's land for the last year, we've been left to really come up with a formula that would work. Now, where we began last year, our first attempt to produce something for you all was an allocation of expenditures based on revenues. Now, that's in your packet. You can see around page, I'm counting out around page 18. That was our first attempt to meet this requirement. And it was a new requirement to all of us. We had like, what, a month, 8 weeks to bring it together. That was our first attempt. That report was not acceptable to the Accommodations Tax Committee. And so we've spent time since last fall trying to come up with another measure that would be acceptable, not just acceptable to you all, but welcomed by you all. And that unit of measurement that we have come up with is basically a methodology involving lodging inventory. Now, for the 2 new members, unless you ask me to, I don't plan to go back into the budget discussion that we had last time. The budget is included in your packet today, but I'm going to hit the highlights here of what we talked about last month. And so this allocation gives us an opportunity to look at your community's inventory of rooms, and that's hotel rooms and short-term rental. So all lodging, your percentage of lodging as it relates to the whole community. And Isle of Palms has 5.5% of the overall lodging in our community. You have 424 rooms that we consider full service hotel inventory. And those 424 rooms are also luxury room inventory. And Gloria can speak to efforts in the group sales arena. That's where this factors in, is your share of our efforts from a group sales perspective, 8% and 24%. And then your islands room inventory. So how many rooms you have in relation to the island communities we have. And Isle of Palms has over 1/3 of the rooms in our beaches community. And then we have several projects that we've added based on conversations that we've had that are 100% allocated to Isle of Palms, and we're excited about those. So
Clerk, just go back to that slide. So those 424 rooms that are either full service or luxury, are they the same rooms?
yes, sir.
That's not double counting?
No, sir, because they're different markets. So the luxury group is, there are trade shows that we go to that are specific to that type of property. And this is spelled out on that very ugly Excel spreadsheet that I sent you last time, and it's in the packet. The 8% is related to full services. That's an entirely different market of groups that we're looking to attract. So we're not looking to double count rooms. It's the market that we're going after that we're talking about here. And I may not be saying that well. But no, sir, we're not double counting rooms. We're saying that.
You're targeting a different market, but those same rooms can apply to both markets.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, and I'm kind of trying to hit the high spots here without diving back into that spreadsheet, but we can do that when and if you want to. Okay. So moving on, the spreadsheet once again details our plans for expenditures around marketing and advertising, around $250,000. And again, the details are in the spreadsheet, but it's web development, it's enhancement, it's search engine optimization, it's commercial production and distribution, it's photography, it's videography, it's digital campaigns and social media. We've planned another $265,000 in negotiated ad buys. Those are planned for AAA, for Southern Bride, Discover South Carolina, Coastal Living, Midwest Living, and Condé Nast. We have another $50,000 that we're allocating towards group sales, and that goes back to those luxury rooms and the full service rooms. Market research at $21,000. Everything we do is based on research. We're not just throwing darts at the wall, and there's a cost to research. It's very expensive. And then our general destination services and promotion, there was some conversation that Isle of Palms, how do we fit into the bigger picture? So we've allocated a $380,000 towards the overall destination effort, for a total of $972,000. And this year, as you see on page 20, Isle of Palms has budgeted $826,000 towards the 30% allocation. We'll see. It's always fun to see, because I budgeted 875. So we'll see where it ends up. All right. So I wanted to move on to the digital sites, because there was a lot of conversation and question about the various sites. And when I sat down, I understood why there was a lot of confusion after I left the meeting and went to sit down. So we're going to focus on 3 digital sites that highlight or include Isle of Palms in our world, beginning with the main site of explorecharleston.com. We also have charleston-area-beaches.com, which you'll hear us refer to as the beaches site. And those were initiatives that we had before we were ever in these meetings beginning a year ago or before that. What we've added since that time is discoveriop.com and exploreiop.com. These are the IOP specific site. This is an Isle of Palms specific site that was initiated in response to these conversations. And this is where we have the opportunity to include non-members. All right, so let's look first at explorecharleston.com. And this is just an example of one of the Isle of Palms specific pages. And Ms. Barb, I really took some time to dig into what you had experienced. And what I found is that we do have an opportunity to rework some of these pages, because when I go, if I want to look for lodging and I want to look specific to Isle of Palms, well, we have these badges and tiles that we sell that land at the top of whatever page you're on. So that works fine in this case for the Palms, but it doesn't for Harborview Inn, because Harborview Inn is not Isle of Palms. I saw what you meant when you found Miss Rose's when you were looking at restaurants. So we have an opportunity there to work on that. But Isle of Palms can show up in each of the areas on explorecharleston.com. If you go to restaurants, and you can pull up Isle of Palms restaurants. If you go to attractions, you can pull up Isle of Palms attractions. If you go to lodging, you can pull up Isle of Palms lodging. So there's a presence on explorecharleston.com whereby you can search for Isle of Palms specific businesses that are members of ours.
Members only.
Yes, sir. Now, we've had over 22 million page views since January 2019. 150,000 of these specific to people who went in and said, just show me Isle of Palms businesses. Now, that doesn't mean somebody that went in and said, I'm looking for restaurants, and they don't search by region. Isle of Palms businesses might show up there anyway. But people who came in and said, I want to see what's going on at Isle of Palms, 150,000 people. And this just kind of breaks that down for you. And I think what's interesting about this is just to see what we did in the first 6 months of 2022. Explore Charleston has 4.2 million page views, and 24,000 of those were specific Isle of Palms filters. All right, let's move on to the second website, which is charlestonareabeaches.com. This site has 3.3 million page views since January 2019, 500,000 of which were specific to Isle of Palms landing pages. And once again, this kind of just breaks down the details on that. The third site, and this is the one that we've added since December, is discoverislepalms.com. You can also get there by exploreislepalms.com. And this is not related to membership in the CBB. So any business that wants to participate in this site can do so.
So they would have to contact you. You're not.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, these are the businesses that we have heard from since we've kicked off this site. Bless you. 19 responses, only 11 of them are non-members, and some of them don't even have websites. So we have work to do here. And Desiree and I talked yesterday. Her staff and I are going to be getting together, and the CBB is going to start reaching out and contacting people individually so that they understand what it is that they're getting. And that's something that I know your team doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to do, but we can and should. So that's something that we're going to be working to grow. I think that's about, yeah, it looks like my leads page is not on there, but I will say that these were efforts that we were happy to add. And I think that the conversations that we've had have only made us better. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I don't, as I said, I don't intend to go into detail on the spreadsheets unless you would like me to. They are included in your packet. We spent about 2 hours talking through those items at the last meeting. So if there are any follow-up questions from that or any comments, I'd be happy to address them or take them. And I just thank you for having us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Can I ask a question?
Sir.
All right, a couple of things. I'm still trying to get my mind around what promotion means. Does it mean you pay an advertising agency, or are there other things that you can do as far as promotion is concerned? I haven't seen it defined particularly well in the law. For example, if we when people come onto the island across the connector, the first thing you see is the metal public works building, not as attractive as you would like. Could you spend money on that and for tourist promotion, or there, what all are the limits of what you can do?
Well, the state spells out what they consider to be good uses of tourism specific promotion. I won't pretend to be an expert, much less a legal expert on the definition of that. I can tell you my idea of promotion from a marketing perspective. I mean, it can be anything from producing a commercial that you see on TV to a website that you visit, to going to Google and typing in beach communities in South Carolina. That is, there's something working behind the scenes to make Isle of Palms pop up. That's called search engine optimization. It can be social media. It can be going to a trade show. It can be public relations. So it can be a slew of things. How the state defines it legally is another thing.
The other thing, and I'm going to use Ray Burns as an example. He provides short-term rentals on the Isle of Palms. They're more than $1 billion, by many calculations, are more than $1 billion of short-term rental assets on the Isle of Palms. You go down Palm Boulevard and you see all the houses there or on Ocean, that a lot of people have a lot of rental homes, and they sink their life savings into providing short-term rentals for tourists. They have to pay the 2% ATAX funds.
Technically, the renters are paying them.
It directly impacts on the Isle of Palms. We have police, we have fire, we have trash, we have a lot of extra burdens that are put on them.
Absolutely.
These are the funds that are come to the Isle of Palms.
As I used to be a short-term rental owner, I didn't pay the 2%. I passed it on to my renter, who paid the 2%.
And the
Just
Isle of Palms gets burdened with it. We have extra police, we have fire,
absolutely.
we have.
It's a blessing that we have this money. Yeah, definitely.
So the money is paid, but I'm trying to figure out, get beyond that if I can, but Ray, for example, and many others have short-term rentals. The money is paid. It comes either out of it.
Yes, sir.
He's
I
either-
understand.
He's either paying it or the taxpayer
Right?
are paying it. Somebody's
Mhm.
paying it, and it's supposed to be used to support the Isle of Palms. What does somebody like Ray get in return? Do y'all, when you're doing your metrics, do you include Ray? Or are you just using hotels? And what benefit does somebody like Ray or Rebecca, what do they get?
Well, I think
The
they
money
get
that
in
they pay.
return the general branding of the community in Isle of Palms, that things are doing very well out here. And our key data research shows us that short-term rentals are booming, although there is some trend where owners are now starting to move into areas, into houses, into homes that they have bought and were utilizing for short-term rentals, but that's another conversation. But yes, sir, absolutely they benefit. And I will tell you, many of them work through entities like VRBO or platforms like that. And that's where they're getting their, I'm not going down the route you want.
I'm just having a hard time getting my mind around what data you gather from people like Ray and Rebecca and on that have a lot of money invested in this island, and what you're doing to promote them.
I'd be happy to
advertise.
share with you our
Yes,
key
yes,
data
sure.
research, which is specific to short-term rental data on the islands. Of course, if you'll make a note, we'll be happy to share that. And yes,
You got it.
and absolutely, if Ray wants to send us this information to go on this site, we're absolutely happy to do that as long as he's got the correct business licenses, and I have no doubt that he doesn't. But most of those people work through VRBO. They're working through those type sites to look for travelers who are looking to stay in a home like that. So absolutely. And I think that he definitely benefits by the reputation that this community has and the brand that this community has. So I think you're looking for me to make a direct benefit. Okay. And what I'm saying is that there is definitely an indirect benefit. And I'm saying that if Ray wants to put his information on this site, I'd love to hear from him and anybody else.
A couple other things that I'm trying to get my mind around it is that, for example, Isle of Palms, I looked in one recent year, we paid $733,000 to CBB. Sullivan's Island pays maybe zero, almost nothing.
They don't have as many rooms, certainly.
You can add in Folly Beach, and you add in Mount Pleasant and Charleston County, and you add in all that, little Isle of Palms, 4,300 residents pays more than all of them combined. But when I look on various sites, it looks like, and I respect and like the people in Mount Pleasant and Sullivan's Island, but I'm wondering if we're getting our bang for our buck. And then I looked to just a few minutes ago, I was looking on a site, best beaches in Charleston County, and we're rating dead last. And it just, you go to these sites and it's very disappointing. That I'm very proud of our island. And
Sure.
I'm wondering, why are we always ranked last?
I'm sorry to hear you're disappointed. That disappoints me too. I can't answer the
What-
question
what-
why you're ranked last. I don't have anything to do with the rankings. Rankings are produced by voters. So by people who are voting on islands and destinations and all of that. But I would say that, and we can certainly look at the measurements, but the measurements that we're utilizing in terms of tracking your occupancy, your rates, suggest that the island is doing very well. The notion that your accommodations tax is outperforming suggests that your island is doing very well. So what would you like to see us doing that we're not?
Well, I'm curious to, trying to get my mind around, we keep getting ranked dead last, but we're paying more money, millions more than Sullivan's Island, but Sullivan's Island and Folly Beach get ranked, and all the things I'm looking at when they talk about top beaches, we're far below them, and that's
Well,
very
I'm sorry to hear
disappointing.
that. I see, and I can't impact the rankings. I'm sorry.
I know.
What I can impact is your business out here.
Have you been on the beaches on the weekends? I mean, we're overrun with tourists. I mean, comparing us to Sullivan's Island as far as revenue, it doesn't make any sense. They don't have any hotels, so it's just apples and oranges. But I don't know. I mean, I've seen someone rank our beach low because we don't allow drinking. Oh, well, I'm glad we don't. You know, so I mean, I don't know who's ranking and who's doing it. And what's your source? Is it from the CBD ranking or?
Well, they're providing us with, they're trying to promote the Isle of Palms. And they've done an excellent job for Charleston. They've done an excellent job for other communities. They're supposed to be advertising and promoting for us, yet we keep getting, we're in the lower tier. And I'm
I
having a
think
hard
we're
time
talking about
understanding
apples
why.
and oranges. The revenues keep going up. We're getting more and more of a percentage. Obviously, we're succeeding. Is it because of the CDD? Yes. Is it because we have good rentals? Yes, it's probably both. But if all of a sudden our revenues were going down, then you'd have an argument.
I respectfully disagree. I think the primary reasons we do well is because of, number one, location. We've got good government. We've got residents that care. We want to see our visitors. We want to be welcoming for our visitors. We got good people that are working here. And I'm trying to get my mind around what the promotion is being done while we're seem to be.
So if I could answer that question, well, I don't either, but I do feel like I will tell you that it feels like the goalpost keeps moving. So this is the first time that I have heard that it's important to you, Mr. Truslow, that you be ranked. So if that's something that your committee decides is important, we will look into that and see what those parameters are, what's making other communities score well that for some reason isn't happening out here. And we'll go to work researching that for you. But that's the first time I've heard that. And I feel like the goalpost keeps moving.
I went back and looked at minutes for the last 20 years, and it seems that these concerns have been expressed.
I just hadn't heard that before, but maybe I've missed it.
Lori, I'd like to get back to some of your earlier presentations.
Yes, sir.
Particularly the slide about the methodology, about the new way to come up with an allocation on a budget.
Yes, sir.
Have you done that formula for Folly and for Sullivan's and Seabrook and Kiowa and so on and so forth?
I have not. We have done it for Kiowa. We have not. So let me phrase that. Yes, sir, for Kiowa, because they asked for the same presentation. Or they asked for the same budget. The other communities, we have not yet. I'm awaiting what we get from Turk, because I feel like right now, every government is sort of looking for something a little bit different. And we want to, unless someone comes to me and asks me for something, we're going to see what Turk produces this summer and go from there. But are we ready to do this for every community? Yes, sir. We're absolutely prepared to do that.
Because I think that would be interesting for us to see that formula applied to Folly Beach relative to their investment in CBD.
Well, there's no doubt that that's not going to come out in a fair way. And that's
Fairway to
well,
Isle of Palms or
just in general. And as I mentioned last time, we are in conversation with Folly Beach right now, and our relationship is going to look different with Folly Beach. I can't give you the specifics because I don't have them yet, but
okay, another question. So at the end of a fiscal year, you're required to submit to us an accounting of expenditures. We've expressed in the past that the accounting that's been given was not enough information.
Correct.
Wasn't acceptable.
yes, sir.
I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's part of this whole process, I think. What are your plans about giving us an accounting of expenditures for fiscal 22? When and is it going to be any different than what we've seen in the past?
Well, it's going to have to be. Yes, sir. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because this is one of the things that makes me think we're going to be back here again talking about how can we agree on our reporting. As I mentioned, and the reason I brought up the change in interpretation last year is because prior to last year's situation, our giving you a budget was our budget was presented to you through your member on our board. And then our report back to you at the end of the year was our audit. those have been the way that has been the way we've been meeting those requirements. Turk changed their understanding of that requirement. And so here we are. We haven't yet had to produce an accounting aside from last year's debacle where we only had a few weeks to pull something together. Yes, we're going to have to give you an accounting, and what that means, I don't know yet. And I'm very hopeful that when we get the standardized report from Turk, that it will give us some more clarity around that. But I also want to come back to you and show you what we've done that we said we would do. The only thing that concerns me about it is it took us so long to get the budget approved for last fiscal year. We didn't have time to do what we said we'd do last fiscal year. I mean, the budget wasn't approved till April. And now we're talking about a budget that we're already 2 weeks into. So, we want to live up to the commitments we're making to you. We're just already behind.
So Lori, help me understand that, the budget being late and you received the monies for that budget. What happened to the money if those projects weren't done? Does it go to some other municipality? Is that the way that works?
Well, no, sir. We went full throttle on, we developed this website in the last 6 months. So we were able to move forward on some
Okay,
things.
yeah, but not the way anyone wants to do. business.
Right.
Okay.
And some of them,
thought this could have been a use it or lose it scenario.
Right. Some of the things that we proposed for the current fiscal year, for example, are ad placements. We're either going to make those or we're not, so, and we have to make those on a timeline that works with the publication or the site. And so the web development is something we can work on all year long, but some of the placements that we've proposed, we have a timeline around those. So I hope that we can honor those.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm a little confused, but, so you're saying since the budget wasn't approved by city council, you really didn't act on your budget initiatives over the course of
We absolutely,
over the 10 months.
we
or 8
absolutely,
months, whatever it was.
we absolutely moved forward with them, but we didn't have any direction. So we moved in our own direction. We moved in the direction that we said we were moving. But what I'm saying is that we can't be working 10 months in arrears.
All right, I accept that answer, but I don't understand it because we paid all along. We continually paid 30% every quarter. So you were being paid according to the budget. The fact that the budget wasn't approved by city council didn't affect you getting paid.
Right.
So I
And
would
didn't
think
affect
it shouldn't have affected you doing.
and it didn't, but we were working without your approval.
Okay, so as an example, in the budget last year was a line item at the end for $157,000 for the website. Is what we saw today of the product of the $157,000?
That is part of it. But I will say, I had to go back and look at what you were referencing last time. And so thank you for including it in the packet this time. What we were working from, this was an allocation of expenses that you all turned down.
Right.
Okay, so this was not approved.
It was approved by city council.
Eventually. Yes. So, but your question was, are we going to give you an accounting? And the answer to that is yes, we are. We're in the middle of closing out our year now, just like the city is. It's going to take us a while to do that. I believe the reports are due in October to Turk. I'd love to tell you a specific time frame, but it
No,
will.
I understand how those things.
Yeah, but we will
So I'm not
absolutely give
pressuring
you.
I'm just asking you. I want to know, should we expect to see something more than what we've seen? in
Yes,
the
sir.
past?
Yes, sir.
And if you give me an idea when it would be, that'd be great. But if you can't, I totally understand.
It will be in the fall.
Okay, so understanding. Now going forward, looking at fiscal 23, there are line items there clearly is more detail than we've ever seen in the past. And I appreciate that. However, there are line items on that budget for maintaining in improving the website that really doesn't really exist. I mean, it exists I mean, if I just pulled it up.
What do you mean it doesn't exist?
Well, it exists, but it's very limited.
Yeah, but it took resources to get it into existence.
Fine,
And it will take resources
But
to
what I'm getting
continue.
at is the money, the $66,000, whatever it is, allocated in the budget. That is for maintaining and one item is allowing that website to talk to your beaches website for about $30,000. And then the other was, I think, just maintenance of the website, another $30,000 or $35,000. And I just want to get clarification on, is that what I'm reading?
Okay, what I'm reading, I see website development. I see website enhancement.
Right, see, website development, and we've already paid according to the budget.
Right.
$157,000 for that.
Right.
So now we have website development, another $37,000.
Well, we're gonna report back to you in accounting of what all of this costs. Yes, sir.
And then
and this-
enhancement, an enhancement of $31,000. All right. It's enhanced, I guess. And then search engine optimization, another $60,000, which I guess that's on keywords and things of that sort.
It's
But we
20,
pay-
it's
we pay
20,000.
We pay a third of that. All right.
I know it's a lot of money. I know it is. And it takes a lot of money takes a lot of money.
Any questions of anyone else? Yeah, guys,
Great, thank you. Lord, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can appreciate the situation you're in. This is all new for everybody. Hopefully the outcome will be that the communities that you're representing, as their agency, become stronger, right? So, I think, what's really interesting is I think you've come up with a very interesting approach from a allocation of marketing spend in terms of looking at the rooms, the percent, and that kind of formula, type of situation that you've done. And I can respect that. I think there's another side to this. And that is there's not an infinite amount of good media to buy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
I would argue, without having any research information here, not having done any client work specific to tourism or travel, but given my experience, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that our target audience for Isle of Palms and Charleston proper are very close, if not exact.
Mhm.
Would you say that's a fair?
I would,
Okay.
absolutely.
So we have a situation here whereby there is some of the very best marketing opportunities that exist out there, that you're having to attribute to a community level.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what is kind of interesting here is kind of the proposal on, I'm going to focus solely on media. Okay, I'm not an expert in B2B. I think the convention work, all that kind of stuff, I'm going to leave that kind of aside. Website development and all that kind of stuff, I'm going to kind of focus on the
Media.
media aspects. And you're going to be hearing me speaking as a former CMO versus an ATAX member.
Okay.
Okay, which means I have more information than most,
Yes.
right? And this kind of makes it kind of an awkward situation. So kind of in the review, the overall spend, it's really, and it might be just because of trying to put this down into a spreadsheet for a non-marketing professional to understand. And maybe that's it. And for everybody here, a budget is not the same thing as a media plan. A media plan is where we get very specific with the company that we're working with and the agency to find out where the best marketing opportunities are, the amount of that marketing opportunity in terms of its audience and definition and its costs. Okay, so if I was the CMO of Isle of Palms and you were my agency, and it wasn't this quasi-government relationship rule type of thing, you would come, I would request a request for proposal for a media plan. And you would basically, number one, define who our target audience is.
Mhm.
And then based on that, tell me all the opportunities and where we could invest those dollars, what the universal, the quantity of that audience is, and what that cost is, so I can effectively get an average cost of impression of what it is that we're seeing here.
Mhm.
Now, what's kind of interesting here is, again, Charleston and the Isle of Palms is competing for exactly the same customer.
Hmm.
Okay, so that means that
I don't think necessarily they are.
I would venture to say it's pretty close from a target demographic, from a, you know, we're here to, and we could probably agree to disagree,
Right.
but I imagine that there is some overlap. Okay. But well, that means that basically we're in competition for some of the same media. Okay, so if we can all agree that there is some amount of that media, you know, how is that going to be divided? And is it being divided based on the overall percent of rooms? And because we don't have the other side of you showing, here is actually the full media plan for everybody, and here's all the placements and what we think is best, we don't have an understanding
True.
of how we represent in the best of the best.
Mhm.
I know Charleston, you know, Condé Nast City of the Year or whatever it is, it's the Super Bowl for you guys. Charleston #1, right? And that probably is a big beacon for you guys in terms of being able to point and say how successful you are. In the terms of our occupancy rates, while there is a correlation to marketing spend and occupancy rates, there is no way for us to say there's a 1-to-1 or if it's even causal. Right? So when we kind of back up to the media plan, what I find very interesting is that the plan is not how we typically approach media spend in 2022. And that is, in today's world, we're a digital first spend. Just to give some idea, the US ad spend today, well, this is as of 2020, from Dentsu, which is one of the largest advertising holding companies in the world. The digital ad spend in the US is 48%, with magazines being at 3.9%. I'm more than happy to, we can go through this, you know, type of thing. Digital marketing growth, as digital video is, the growth in 2021 is 50% year over year, with podcasts at 72%. US television market share, streaming is now at 28%. Okay, so what I look at from a paid media position here is that we're heavily invested in print with declining subscribers and increased rates. Now, the rate structures on spreads can vary based on the type of spend and the relationship that you have. I know Meredith and Condé Nast are your two largest, you know, partners in those areas. Those media buys are often constructed in an overall spend, probably heavily digital, and in some cases, the print advertising is actually given as value add, or they need to make up their numbers and you are required to do some amount of paid, you know, placement within magazines
Absolutely.
in order to get this
They're
working.
linked.
I should also disclose my wife works in advertising for the New York Times. Okay, so yeah, so to find it that the #1 news subscribership in the country with one of the largest travel followings, for us to not have a media placement there, to me is kind of interesting.
Mhm.
So lastly, you know, we're in the world of digital marketing, and we're doing tests on YouTube and TikTok and whatever for very, very, very small dollars, right? And the reality of it is that TikTok, people spend 22.6 trillion minutes a year on TikTok. I'm not saying necessarily TikTok is our target demographic, but what I am saying is that the world has really shifted here.
Absolutely.
So really what I'm asking for, and I apologize for the background.
No, thank you.
But what I want to be able to do, oh, and by the way, print advertising has declined from $25 billion in 2012 to $5.5 billion as of last year. So I understand you need to keep your relationships with Condé Nast and Meredith. And I understand that it's important for the pay per play in terms of being able to get advertorial and to get the writers to come here and all of that. I am very aware of it and do believe it does need to play an essential role in terms of a omni-channel marketing structure, to support us. What I need to be able to see, if it is all possible, is to ensure that the media that is being spent in the same universes that we have, that Isle of Palms is at least getting a fair shake in terms of the top positions and representations. Because as Charleston, as we work together as a community, and we have a symbiotic relationship, the idea of somebody coming to Charleston maybe for the first time, taking a day trip to Isle of Palms and discovering the fact that we're here and coming to Isle of Palms the second time, which also some of the creative, I think we could do a better job making people understand that all these homes here, a lot of them are for rent. They're not just custom homes. On the same token, people who come to Isle of Palms and stay, and I came here first as a visitor, every time that I came here, I went to Charleston. So for us to have 100% attribution in a community marketing spend, knowing that tax dollars go over to Charleston and vice versa, I kind of question that methodology. I'm definitely willing to spend in areas where we can target, but I'm hoping we can come to a way once a marketing person leaves this committee, because not everyone's going to have somebody like me here, right? And to be able to have a report that a layman could be able to understand those two things, the expense and what they're doing. We haven't even talking about, how do we measure success yet?
Sure.
But for me, the big thing right now is, how do I know that I'm not taking, Condé Nast in the back half of the book of a 2-page spread that was a giveaway and getting a value for that. And the city of Charleston got a takeover homepage ad to vote for best city.
Mhm.
How can we accomplish those goals?
Well, I think those are great questions, and those are great conversations for us to have. I mean, I think one thing, and I don't mean to suggest that when you say Charleston wins travel and leisure or Charleston wins Condé Nast, I don't think that means the city of Charleston. To me, that means our community.
Okay, sure.
So I just have to say that. I'm
Sure.
not saying that you're saying, when you say we're pitting against each other, to me, that's a win for our community. Whether you're in, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm from Somerville originally. Whether you're from Somerville or whether you're from Seabrook Island, it's a win for the community. But are there things that we can be doing that you want? I mean, I'd love to hear that kind of feedback. Absolutely. There are lots of ways to spend this money. We are streaming, we're OTTing. We have had our marketing director here with our CEO. We've talked marketing, and we just haven't been able to get from here to there yet. So we wound up with budgets and numbers and trying to get from here to there with the numbers and finding a methodology. So this has been like making sausage for sure. And I believe that we're going to be better on the other side of this. I mean, for a long time, we were a regional entity. That's what we were created to do. And we discussed the region. We lifted up parts of our community. When we are talking about Charleston, we're not just talking about the historic district and cobblestone streets. We're talking about the beaches. We're talking about shopping at Tanger. We're talking about playing golf at Kiowa or wherever, you know? So that is our mindset. But we recognize that the world is changing and that there are these micro, I mean, even New York now it's not come to Manhattan. They have a 5 boroughs campaign. When you've been back for the 10th time, you're not going to go to Times Square again. You're going to want to go see what's going on in the Bronx or on Long Island. And so times are changing and we're always looking for content. We're always looking for new things to talk about. So I appreciate where you're coming from and I'd love to continue the conversation.
Absolutely. And would you terribly mind going back to your revenue pie? Because I think this is really something.
Which
that
one?
Everybody.
That one or this one?
This one.
Okay.
Yeah, this one. So as everybody knows here, there has been discussion about partnerships and other opportunities, et cetera, right? And the one thing that I just want to point out here is, number one, the Visitors Bureau and working across municipalities, there is a synergy there. There should be a scale improvement. When you look at a marketing budget, you have fixed expenses of marketing people. If we operated today as an entity, Isle of Palms would have to have a marketing department, then they would have to hire an agency. The DMO is actually the marketing department and the agency. You need to have people who specialize in SEO, to print, to all these different things. And it's a large head count, and it's expensive, which means that when you collect the dollars, that after you have your expenses, you only have so much left over for what we call paid media, and that becomes the efficiency. So the goal of working with a larger company or organization is to provide scale. So that's the first benefit that I would like to point out, that we do receive quite a benefit on. The second one I'd like to point out is the grant and the state of SC money at 29.3%. I am going to assume some of that is flowing into programs specifically to marketing and advertising, outside of anything in terms of private dinners and things for businesses and whatever, which is basically, if you're seeing that, is a potential doubling of the marketing budget. That is something that I'm not sure would be able to obtain in a different relationship. The last thing is really the flexibility and some of the opportunities that happen at large scale. We are a beach community, and there are these things that are called hurricanes. And there will come a time where we come down and we have to rebuild, and we only have so many dollars to spend against marketing. My hope is that a larger organization with the funding would be able to provide additional funding to get us up and going. So those are some of the major benefits. So my goal wasn't to come out and and say, hey, everything is really wrong. There are positives and there are improvements I think that we can be making in this partnership. And I think that is my intent.
And I appreciate that. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. There are positives and there are absolutely improvements. And I hope you see that we are open to that conversation and trying to work in that direction. So thank you for all of that.
Sure.
Chris, did I miss anything? I'm sure I missed a lot.
Any other
Where do we go from here?
questions for Lori? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having us again, truly.
Okay, are we prepared to vote on the CBD budget proposal, or do you need more information?
I think we've been information to death, actually. It's good information, but still. I'd like to make a motion that we approve and send along to the city council the FY 23 budget from the Charleston Visitors Bureau as mandated by state law.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know, one of the things that we've never heard from is from, or this committee hasn't heard from anybody on, from another side. It's kind of like, to me, it's in many ways like an analogy to a plaintiff's attorney coming before jury and asking for money, and there's nobody to say anything on the other side. Or if you have a criminal trial, you have a defendant that gets to present the testimony, you don't hear from anybody else. I'm troubled by that. That I'd like to know what our other alternatives are beside one. We're only hearing, seems to me, we're only hearing one side of the argument.
I don't really
That's the first
see,
thing.
I don't really see a lot of organizations coming forth, or an RFP going out to, solicit for that. I mean, you're already 2 weeks behind, for a budget, and we're already in that fiscal year. Just saying.
Additionally, just to make a point, state law establishes the organizations that are eligible to receive, manage, and direct the expenditure of the 30% of ATAX. As we've talked about before, with the newly created chamber, they would be an eligible organization by the definition of state law. But I think that we've had this conversation. The ATAX task force has spent several months looking at this and decided that the chamber needed some time to fully develop into potentially being an option for the city, and that the city should support the development of the chamber for them to become an option in the future, but certainly they're not there yet. Therefore, I just don't know what other nonprofit organization that is a regional direct marketing organization or another chamber that would be eligible to serve as the city's direct marketing organization as it's required by state law.
Is there in fact language in the current fiscal 23 budget that says Charleston Area Visitors Bureau is designated as the City of Isle of Palms direct marketing organization? Or I don't know the language, or in other alternative could be considered by city council.
That's correct.
So that's there. So by passing the motion to approve this budget, does that guarantee that Charleston Area Visitors Bureau receives the 30%? Or does the caveat?
It's up to the council.
That's up to city council.
It's not our vote.
Well, I understand, but there's language in the budget that allows council flexibility. And the motion is really specific to Charleston Area Visitors Bureau. I just asking the question, does that vote nullify the language in the budget?
I don't think it does. I mean, you're approving a budget. We pay the CBB quarterly. And as no other option exists, the CBB is the option available today.
All right, I just wanted to ask that.
I think once a viable, eligible alternative is council is identified by council, then I just don't see what other alternative there is that would be approved by state law. I don't see it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I do think for now, it is in the city's best interest to work together with the CBD to try to rectify and come together based on some of the areas that I have outlined. Please bear in mind, while we have 95% occupancy rate and high dollar on the units at this time, we are forecasted to go into a recession. So it is really in our best interest to try to shore up and repair what we have at this point in time versus trying to go out and do something that is on a short-term basis, something that could be critical if and when a recession does come, but it's forecasted.
Nicole, can you do a roll call, restate the motion and do a roll call?
The motion is to approve and recommend that city council approve the FY 23 budget of the Charleston District Bureau. You'd like a roll call vote?
I was gonna say for, save people time on further discussion or to explain the reasons for my vote, I'll put it in the record. I mean, I'll have it in writing and I'll submit it to Nicole to justify my vote, not just rely on my words. If that's acceptable with the chair.
Sure, that's fine with me.
All right,
Mr. Trussell, how would you vote?
nay.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Ms. Grover?
Yes.
Mr. Akers?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Nay,
Motion passes.
You have
wait, yeah, Rebecca.
Oh, Ms.
Rebecca.
Ms. Kovalich?
Nay,
Fails.
That's correct. Motion fails with a tie vote.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, and it kind of dovetails with what Gloria just mentioned. I wanted to have a discussion, really for the future, discussion concerning the feasibility of this committee recommending to city council that going forward in fiscal 24, the city issues a request for proposal for the management and expenditure of the 30% ATAX funds for tourism promotion and advertisement. My point there is, okay, right now CBD is the only option the city has on the 30%, and the city is required to spend the money to pay out the 30% immediately after receipt. So there is no option. However, the Chamber of Commerce has formed, and they have publicly stated their intention is to compete for the 30% funds and acting as a direct marketing organization. State law does say you can have more than one, so that's entirely feasible. But I wanted to discuss with this group the idea that we manage the expenditure of the 30% in a request for proposal type activity, as opposed to the way we've been doing it all along. In light of these chambers stated intent, they want to compete. So at that point in time, how else would you do it? If you have two entities that want to contend for the 30% money, how else would you do it other than that, other than having presentations, I suppose. But does anyone have any thoughts on
Does it have to be an all or nothing? I mean, could it be
No,
a shared?
Could be 50,
I mean, I didn't know
50,
what
70,
your vision was.
No, it could be shared in any way, shape, or form in terms of percentages on what either entity would receive.
Right.
And the way I'm thinking about it is CBD could say, I'm going to be your expert at digital marketing or group sales or whatever it might be. And the chamber might say, I'm going to be your expert on what is it, social media or whatever, and pick their spot. But
So there's something that you are not seeing that the CVB, there's something that you feel that they're not providing for you at this point. Can you specify?
well, we've always said, well, I shouldn't say all, we have said for quite a while, we want to see our money spent to the benefit of Isle of Palms. And we want to see accountability and traceability of where our money is being spent.
And what would that goal be? I mean, like more room nights, more this, more that. I mean, what, you want to see Isle of Palms being promoted, but to what end? I mean, what is the goalpost? I mean, I'm just kind of
Well,
curious,
we would
like, what would you
establish
think
what
it
the
would be?
metrics are. We've always said one of the things is increase in off-season business and increase in group sales business.
Right.
that kind of thing. Where nobody's
Who-
looking for.
Then I don't think that Chamber of Commerce is going to be your best source for that. You know, if that's what you're saying your goal is, then the Chamber of Commerce is not your best goal for, it's not your best vehicle for that. You want an organization that works with hotels like the CBD does with Wild Dunes hand in hand to work towards that off-site business. I mean, that's what you just said, you know, you
Yeah,
want
and I
to,
understand
offset
that,
groups.
and that's what they're doing today, and that
Right.
might be one of their fits. I mean,
Mm.
that is one of their fits.
right.
But what I'm saying is that right now, there's no competitive bidding, we're spending close to $1 million.
Mm.
And it's going to an organization that, I think we're improving our relationship, it's going in the right direction, but,
But $1 million really is a drop in a bucket, you know, for, it might seem like a huge, big figure to you, but $1 million is really not that much money spent on a marketing campaign for Isle of Palms.
So, and just a thought, the Chamber of Commerce, I'm surprised they're not here today, just because they should show some interest. They got to develop. I mean, right now, they have no employees. They have someone that's doing a website, I assume.
There's no
and-
relationships.
And Chamber of Commerce, by definition, is businesses working with businesses. So this becoming the direct marketing arm is something that they see a pot of gold and they're working towards getting part of it. That's the reality. And maybe they'll be great, but this could be years in the making. All those people that are doing it also have other jobs. So I don't know how much, you know, how quickly they're developing. Do we know anything about the website? Has it started, or do we have any idea?
No.
So Chamber of Commerce might be great, it might be the answer, but not for a long time until they develop the expertise. And I think they have to prove their expertise in order to be considered a direct marketing organization.
I'm not here trying to convince anybody to give the Chamber of Commerce money. I'm here saying, I'm suggesting that we consider having an open, competitive competition for the 30% money. Now, you might say that they're the CBD is the only option. Well, that's fine. That's where we are today. So that's no worse than we are today. So
Would that not have been a task force recommendation?
The task force did look at that, and they presented 3 recommendations to city council. The first being that we essentially improve the current relationship with the city's existing DMO, more accountability, more of a direct focus on IOP. So rather than, you know, the city being part of the Charleston community, some more IOP specific advertisement. The second recommendation was for the city to support the development of the chamber, so that in the future they could maybe fill some gaps as they may be identified by the city. And the third recommendation from the task force was for the city to advocate for changes to state law that mandates the expenditure of the 30%, whether is changing the percentage, reducing that percentage if we think that 30% is just too much to spend on tourism advertisement, or expanding the definition as to what those monies could be used for. So ultimately, the recommendation from the task force was, were those 3 items. And they did hear from both the CBB and the chamber.
And I know the mayor is pursuing the third option,
Yes, he is forming a coalition of other mayors to,
Greenville, and just
Mhm.
other cities that have a dog in this fight.
I want to understand what the goal of a request for proposals would be if this is money that is mandated by state law to be spent by a certain organization in a certain way. I want to understand what does success look like for this committee by issuing a request for proposals. If we know that the only, one of the 2 organizations, we don't think it's ready, because they just formed 5 months ago. And then the other one is the one that we currently have. I just want to understand what the assignment to staff would be.
the the assignment would be to issue a request for proposal, and that would not be done until sometime after the first of the year for fiscal 23. And if that point in time, the Chamber of Commerce is not in a position to participate, then there's no reason to send out the proposal. I'm trying to get something put in place so that there is in fact some mechanism for get some competition for the 30% funds. Now, if they decide they're never, they're not going to contend for it, then it's a moot subject. But I've seen enough about government to know that you can't do anything quick. So if you want to get something done about a year from now, you better start talking about it now. And that's why I suggested we discuss it. Simple as that. And if there's no alternative, then there's no reason to do it. But if I'm the Chamber of Commerce and I see there's an opportunity for us to contend and compete for a piece of the marketing puzzle, then maybe that they have some reason to have some initiative to put something in place. I don't know. I don't know. But I just feel like we're spending $1 million a year, and our revenues have increased, and I understand all of that, and I understand all the positives and everything, but we have little to say about it, little to nothing to say about it.
Well, they're coming to you all with, they've been here 2 times asking for feedback on the budget and what kind of initiatives or specific focus you want, we want to see, the committee wants to see. And, that's what this exercise is for, is to allow this committee to provide feedback and guidance and essentially ask them, we want to see this. What, you all have to define what you are not seeing that you want to see, and direct them to provide you all a proposal to do what we want to see. That's how I understand the process of them coming with a proposed budget, similar to what they would be submitting through a request for proposals, right? They'll come with a proposal.
A creative proposal on these are our ideas based on feedback. See, there is no feedback. There is no interaction over the course of the year. The truth of the matter is that there is none. So trying to foster some interaction, trying to foster some, okay, this is what we're interested in. This is what we can do for you. Request for proposal would nurture that. But
How many CVB events have you gone to this year?
I've gone to none. What?
Well, then I don't guess you're really interacting.
It's a two-way
I'm not
street.
invited to any event. Okay, I'm sorry I even brought the subject up. It seems to me that there's a need here, and I guess nobody else understands that. If you want to willy-nilly spend $1 million a year and come back a year later and see how it was spent, then that's your prerogative.
That's gonna happen no matter where you put the money. I mean, you're not gonna have, them on speed dial every day to see what the company's doing. They have a track record. They've succeeded, we've succeeded. I mean, our revenues are up. I think the percentage is too high. I'm all for working with the legislature, maybe Representative Bustos, to change it or to broaden how it can be spent. But again, it's, we're getting this feeling that it's our money. It's the tourists came, they paid a tax. The tax, state mandated. It wasn't our choice to put the tax on.
Barb, can I say
Sure.
something? It's the taxpayers' money. And
Right. which is the
it
tourists.
goes into a pile. 65% of that pile is spent on fire trucks, police cars, beach rescue, all
Fantastic.
kinds of other services, marine debt service. 30% is peeled off for promotion of tourism. So are you going to say that 65% is not our money?
No,
No, but
that's
okay, but
not my
that is,
point.
but the
It's not our-
30% is not?
No, I'm not.
I don't understand that.
It's all the tourists paid this money. We are given it by the state to use it, and we're stretching it. We're doing a good job, supporting, which is keeping my taxes lower because I don't have to pay for the extra fire truck and the marina and things. But the 30% is the 30%. I mean, we have no choice. We can't lower it. And we have to spend it. It's my understanding.
We all agree on it.
But obviously we don't because we just voted it down. So I just don't see where we're going. It just makes no sense.
We voted down the budget. We didn't vote down the mechanism for spending for, like I said earlier, we voted down the budget last year and the payments still continue to happen.
So,
Our voting down the budget has nothing to do with what city council does.
so is there any feedback from, what can we ask of them to prepare in a budget that will generate support from this body? I think that's part of the conversation we're having. What from the budget or the proposed activities that have been presented? Is there no agreement on, or, do you want to see more ad placements, or do you want to see more of a focus on IOP? What kind of feedback can we provide to the CVB, who is currently our DMO, in their work plan that we are not seeing, that we would like to see, and we are telling them to develop for us for the benefit of the island? I think that
What I want to see right now is the accounting of expenditures from fiscal 22.
so that's a separate, let's talk about the budget. I think that,
Well, we can talk about the budget, but I'm not a marketing person, and I'm not gonna, I can't go in there and say, well, this is a bad use of the money, do this, do that. I'm not gonna do that. But what I do want to see is, we stated before that previously the information we got at year end was not sufficient. Lori said they're gonna do a better job this year. To me, that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for an accounting of the previous year's money based on the budget that was submitted last year, and then go from there.
so you want to see the accounting of expenditures for FY 22 before you consider the budget for FY 23?
No, no, we already voted on it. No, that's impractical because the timing doesn't work. They need probably 3 months anyway after the fiscal close to come up with the information. So that doesn't work.
I'm trying to find a productive way of this body to give feedback to the CVB as to why this budget is not approved. If we don't provide that feedback, then how can we expect something different that will likely address the insufficiencies or deficiencies that we're seeing today? I don't think we're not having that conversation. And I think that is a way that we can provide to the CVB some guidance, what from the budget we don't like that we would like to see.
I tend to agree with Ray. I think it's an excellent item to bring it up. It's good food for thought. I don't think we're gonna get anything resolved today. The more information we share, the better. For me, it certainly was not Laurie. And by the way, you've done an excellent job. But when we were told, when we first started asking about expenses, that it was none of our business, that was a non-starter for me. That, quite frankly, it was a non-starter. And I would like to hear, I sincerely believe Laurie, and I see her shaking her head, would say it is your business. You ought to be entitled to know where your money is going, how it's being spent, what we have for for travel and entertainment, and on and on. That ought to be shared with us. We ought to have full disclosure. We ought to have transparency. There ought to be as much compliance with Freedom of Information Act as we can. Nobody should say or tell us that under the domains case, we don't have to provide you with any information about how we spend our money. So to know what the budget is going to be, it seems that we would be entitled to know about the expenditures. And I see her nodding again, but I think Laurie would provide it. That would be some of the feedback for me when I'm told, or Ray is told that you're not entitled to know where we spent your money specifically. That's problematic. That's my take. And that started when I first came on this, if you recall, when I first came on this committee, we started asking what we thought were some good questions. I wish I'd got to meet Laurie before. We might have gotten some different answers, but
Yeah.
we've got to have more transparency. The taxpayers deserve it.
I mean, she's asking to be recognized.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, I mean, this is about trust. It's absolutely about trust. So, I mean, if this comes down to an RFP, we are happy to submit information. We can work with Chaz. I would love for us to sit down and have what it feels like is that there's nobody else to ask to the prom, and we're getting asked to the prom because I don't want to be that. I don't want to sit in the room and hear that we're your only option. I want y'all to be happy about what we're doing for you. And so if us going through the RFP process, if us having these hard conversations can get us there, we're in. So I just wanted to say that. So it's about trust. Understand?
Thank you. Dress.
Thank you. I understand the concerns of the committee and the challenges. I honestly believe that a lot of this concern is really not necessarily due to the work of our marketing partners. It's literally the way the statute is written. And I find significant issue in terms of the way that it is written, in terms of the way that things are administered in the rules between the 30% and 65%. It's apples and oranges. According to some of the revenue feedback that was given, it's my understanding, and from reading some of the TERT documentation, that our DMO is not even, that we do not have power to line item veto or approve a budget. It is not our role. So to see the work that perhaps the two of you guys have done in terms of opening up this opportunity, I think has been a tremendous, great step. I think our partners are recognizing this. I think that they're also probably receiving other feedback across other communities, in this area. And as an organization, they're dependent upon that 30%. So they're going to want to protect that 30%. So, my concern is not just in terms of who our partner is and how our hands are tied. I also do believe that looking at the legislation in terms of the actual split is important, because Isle of Palms is a finite piece of dirt. We only have so many short-term rentals here. They've actually declined in total. Our rents are going up, and that's great. But we're looking to limit the number of additional short-term rentals in the future, which means that in the future, our tax base will not exactly, could actually be in jeopardy, right? And the one thing that we can say is, if we've maintained a flat to down percentage in short-term rental here on the island over the years, what we can say is from an exponential percent increase of the amount of day trippers who come to the island, who vastly use the resources of this island. And this is a state beach, and all are welcome, but it is taxing to the community. So those are the people who come and buy a sandwich, go to the Circle K, maybe to the Harris Theater. They're not providing the revenue that our short-term visitors are providing from an ATAX standpoint. So, if we continue to grow, do you really need to spend that 30% to maintain that 95% occupancy rate? And perhaps there's a way to write legislation that bases the percentage given on some kind of annualized average occupancy rate, so that you know how much marketing you spend and how things go up or down. And maybe even allow us to set aside money in the future on marketing dollars in reserve with our DMO, so that when we do hit a recession or a disaster, that we have money to spend against it. So really, I feel my frustration isn't necessarily with them. I think they have marching orders in terms of the way this has been done. I hope we can affect legislation. And what I really want to do is move forward and try to work with them to maybe try to develop the next chapter of relationship with them and partner with them, from, to try to build a template so that we can move forward. And my advice to that would be, if I have my wish list, would be, Lloyd, to kind of do exactly what I said, and that is have an understanding of the overall marketing plan and how that is spent, so that we have an understanding that we're getting fair representation of the best of the best. Number one. And number two, more importantly, what has not been brought here that I think everyone needs to understand is really what that value is of that additional percentage of match dollars is, and how we benefit from that. And that maybe another organization could not provide, because that could, in theory, be doubling the amount of marketing exposure. I don't know how it works. But if I were trying to sell somebody in terms of, here's the value that we bring, this is our secret sauce and the real added value. Those would be the two things that I would really love to see. I'd be more than happy to partner with you guys, to make that happen, if it's appropriate with the committee and with the city.
Okay. I think we have completed that discussion. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Well, what about, do you want to talk about a meeting next month?
Yes. I think we
Well, it
already
was
have,
set, but this one was plugged in. I don't know. We still use that August one?
yeah, we can
That
continue.
was, I had it
27.
at the 19th with a question mark. Oh, that's September. That was September. Sorry, the 23rd. Tuesday, the 23rd. 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay.
That works for everybody?
Check and see. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do, I just wanted to say that one of our members, Crystal Lorenz, was not able to be here today. She had an unexpected emergency. She wanted to be here. She spent a lot of time preparing for this, and I would